is up, guys? Welcome back to Awesome Kids TV. Welcome back to another epic video, and we are back yet again for more super epic building fun. In the previous video, we have constructed a kid's birthday party and in buildcraft, and it turned out pretty good. So in today's video, we are making the finishing build that will hopefully finish off the series of MLP G5 imagination builds that we have been building for a while now. That's right, we are making the portal of imagination back to the first build that we made. So, without any further ado, we shall begin. And of course, we'll start with the red layer. And of course, we'll start with the red, and then go to orange, then yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink, and go back to red again. And we'll keep doing this until the first section of this portal is done and dusted. There we go. We are looking pretty good. Sorry I had to talk less. My sister was no, I'm not gonna get rid of my games. Anyway, my sister was sneezing again. No, you didn't. Alright, the first section is now done. Sorry about the sneezing in the background. My family has been sneezing a lot lately. The Hawkins family has been sneezing quite a lot lately. Anyway, we can now move on to the second section of the tunnel, which is of course going to be the part. You know, like in Phineas the Ferb, the first episode ever, roller coaster. Yeah, that was pretty fun. I watched that like a couple years ago, and I thought about it a couple years later, so yeah. Anyway, after this, I will watch the final two episodes of the original modern day Pound Puppies series, and of course conclude the series, and I guess tell you guys what I thought about the episodes afterwards, I suppose. But I don't want to talk about it right now, because we got a rainbow birthday tunnel to build. So that is what we are building. This is the straightaway section with the straight track. And once this is done, we'll move on to the curvy track. Okay, the straightaway is done. That looks honestly pretty good. And as you go through it, the color changes. That is awesome. Alright, we're now on the stripy part of the tunnel. And as always, we start with the red stripe and continue to orange. Now we go to orange, and then yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink. That's the crafting game Rainbow of Wool, if you are curious. This is going to be the most trippy out of all the sections of this whole entire build. This will take several hours probably to build. So we're gonna have to speed things up with a story. If you guys have been doing a bunch of story time videos for 10 years now, then you probably have not told the tale of your fear of a circus. Well, Rebecca Parham from Let Me Explain Studios has told you guys that story. And when she was little, her and her family went to the circus, and Rebecca Parham got scared of the clown car's exhaust pipes backfiring incredibly loudly. And of course, she had to scream at the top of her lungs because that was what she was doing for a half of the trip. And of course, her sister Rachel Parham was all like, "Oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now." And so she became the melody to Rebecca Parham's Melody of Terror. Yes, she became the harmony to her sister's Melody of Terror. Yes, Melody of Terror, as the British accent I did suggested. Alright, rainbow stripes are now complete. We can now get into the mega stripes of the tunnel. That's right, we're getting into the part you have been waiting for. So of course we're gonna do it. Why wouldn't we do it, eh? Anyway, we start off with red, and then, yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, as I was saying, when we were kids, fear was our emotion of fear was a kid too. It didn't understand the world properly yet. And when Rebecca Parham was younger, a lot younger, she was so like, "I don't trust that vacuum. But that strange man giving candy from his van? Now that's the key word to trustworthy right there. Yeah, you can't trust strangers, so don't trust strangers. Especially when they're handing you out candy. You can't trust them. At least from my point of view." Anyway, if you guys had seen Disney and Pixar's Inside Out, every emotion in your brain has a specific job to do. Fears is to keep you safe from threats that can kill you, physically, emotionally, or socially. Yes, I did say socially because, that is a real word. If you Google it online or look it up in a dictionary or something like that, I think digital ones are the future of dictionaries. Are there digital dictionaries? I don't know. Just ignore what's going on out there. Anyway, enough talk about YouTubers and their childhood experiences. We got a rainbow tunnel to make, and we're nearly done with the rainbow tunnel. Once we get the walls of this part done, we're gonna add the bumps that make up the and then we'll be done. So, yeah. This'll be incredibly fun. Alright, we're now moving on to green. Green wool. The detail in the wool doesn't look very realistic, but who cares? Alright, this is taking too long. We need to talk about another experience another YouTuber had. If you guys don't know, if some of you are new, James of the All and So YouTube channel grew up in a generation where smartphones were a new thing and everyone in his class had one except for him. His parents never got him a cell phone because they didn't want him to access the internet on a device that could fit in his pocket. Because, of course, naturally, they were super strict and didn't want him looking at weird internet stuff, which backfired horribly, by the way. So they never gave him a smartphone. He didn't get one until he was like 16 years old. And now that he's an adult who uses a cell phone every day, he has no idea how on earth he would survive for at least 16 years without one. Because if he were ever in a situation where he needed to call his parents, he would ask the nearest person if he could borrow their phone, which is a pretty bad option to choose and use. Honestly. Why would you do that, eh? Why on earth would you do that, man? Why would you even do that? Anyway, after James completed his first sophomore year of high school, he got his very first cell phone ever, an LG Cosmos 2. He didn't grow up in the 90s, by the way. Everyone else had iPhones, and James was the only one with a phone that had a literal keyboard on it. A literal keyboard. And yeah, I did talk about this previously already to you guys. But anyway, speaking of that, James had a couple of incidences happen to him where sometimes a random person would call him thinking he was someone else and then wouldn't admit they're wrong. And that's how you segue into the theme of this video. One time, James got a call from a number he didn't recognize at home. Now, he had a couple of friends tell him that they don't answer. The phone to a number they don't recognize. But his anxiety won't let him do that. But he thought, what if it's your bank calling saying your account got hacked? What if it's your grandma? Because why would you have her saving your phone? Or what if it's your Nigerian uncle who wants to give you away his collection of gold bars and needs your information for a wire transfer? You just may never know. You may never know. So he picked it up. So he answered it, and it was this woman asking for a Lawrence figure. Yes, a literal Lawrence figure. And James said, "Oh, I'm not. You have the wrong number." And she goes, "Isn't this 416295? That's obviously not a real number, so please don't call it." And James said, no, this is 416-293, because that's my phone number. Again, that's not an actual valid phone number, so please don't call it. And she goes, Frey? I darn think I pressed the ray. James at the time had no idea what the frick to say to that woman because his number is 416-293. Truth, it's really not. But she doesn't think she pushed free, and he didn't know how she was talking to him unless she did push number 3. And so James was all like, well, obviously you did. And then he made a comic about the whole situation because he thought the internet would think it'd be funny. The next story happens at 5:30 in the morning. And James, of course, was lying in his bed asleep. And most people would agree that you're supposed to be awake and productive at 9:30. And obviously, he didn't want to let this stranger think he was lazy. And so all he had to do was answer the phone with his best, I've been awake for the several hours voice. And so he took deep breaths, preparing for what he was about to get into. And so he took some deep breaths and was all like, hello. And then Ed, Ed, and Nettie Rolf type voice responded back and said, you have to come quickly. Timmy fell down the well, Vance. And then he was all like, what? And then the woman calling was all like, I said you're going to have to come quickly because Timmy fell down the well, Vance. He could tell it was a woman on the phone, but it was either her accent or the phone being buggy or that he had just woken up. But he could not understand anything she was saying. And he, at the time, could only make out one word, which was Vance. So, he did not have a lot to get off of. He said, I think you have the wrong number. And then she starts talking like crazy, and he was all like, oh, okay, see you later. And then he just straight up hangs up on the woman. Yes, he hung up on her so that he doesn't have to deal with her gibberish over and over. And then he got a call from the same number. And he thought, okay, maybe this person is calling again, even though I explicitly told her she had the wrong number. Maybe it's not a wrong number after all. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe it's an emergency, so maybe talk to me. And then she was all like, oh, Vance. And then he was all like, okay, I cannot understand anything you're saying. And then the woman passed the phone to her friend, and a random voice started talking. A different voice started talking, and James could actually understand her. And he will never forget what she said to him, which was, Vance, no one thinks that you're funny. And even though he is not Vance, that kind of hurt him. So he stated the obvious, which was, yes, I am. I'm also not Vance. And she was all like, no, Lance. So that whole time, those two have been looking for a Lance. And so James told this woman, I'm not Lance either. And then the woman, who James could understand, was all like, well, this is the number they gave me. Okay, if she had said it like, oh, I'm sorry, this is the number they gave me. I didn't mean to call you, stranger. Also, I do think you're funny and enjoy your videos. Then that would have been fine. She's just shipping the blame to someone else. But then she sounded condescending, like he was wasting her time. Well, this is the number they gave me, and they can't be wrong, so you must be the real Lance. And then she hung up on James. Like the woman basically just called a random person and said, "You're not funny," and then hung up. And so James decided to call her back and said, "Hey, I just found the real Lance. He's the funniest guy you ever met. And he told me he doesn't give his phone number out to real pieces of." Just kidding on the last part. He thought about doing it, but then he went back to sleep. He didn't do it. But then someone on the internet found his phone number and he completely changed it. And whoever has his old number is probably getting a ton of calls from strangers and people James went to high school with. Sorry about that. Anyway, I think we're done with part 1 of the railroad back to the first ever build that we made. Cause, oh boy, it took way too freaking long to even build. It took me a super long time. I've been wasting all this time making this railroad. Alright everyone, that's gonna be it. Thank you for watching and peace. Peace out.